This may be too subtle to show you with just this little camera, but I thought I'd give it a try. I'm getting ready to build a fence along here, and I just was pulling the pallets out. I didn't want the grass to grow up through until I could have time, so I'm kind of just building it temporarily. And I'm following an old ditch that I had dug years ago that I now have put water back into, and there it's leaking severely, but that's not an issue. Hear the peepers? I'm sure you do. Those are tiny little peepers the size of your fingernail. But anyway, why I'm showing you this is, well, the ditch is on a perfect contour. So there's a contour line, and it tells about the ground that is here. Actually, where I'm standing had been a swamp, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, you know, I think a trumpet is draining his swamp. I actually did drain the swamp, but that's not so much my subject here. It's the vegetation and how it's different. You can see the way it changes, and to some extent now it'll change more again once I refill this ditch, because that's going to go back to being a swamp, which is a good thing actually in a way. But right there, this is what made me decide that I would try to film this. The vegetation, to the extent that it changes from there to there, is an indicator of something, an archaeological artifact. When I got here, that causeway, I always called it, that goes across there, and then I'm gradually building a bridge, that was really not known either. It showed up as I started to work down here a little bit. But the change in vegetation right there, from what's on the left to what's on the right, that's going to affect how I run this fence. Because, you know, archaeological features, they always have precedence here. And the ditches being on perfect contours, they reveal the contour. And those pallets, I'll come, and what I've begun to do now is build the pallet fence just below, well, about 3 feet below the ditch. Well, let me see if you can see that. Well, yeah, I've got them laying there ready. And that temporary electric fence is not where it's going to go. It's probably all just a little too subtle, but maybe my explanation will cover for it. But anyway, I will abandon the contour line, and I will make a corner here, and I'll go out through there, because there was a feature there, or there is a feature there, and eventually maybe I'll be able to reveal it. All right, this has maybe been all very confusing to you, but I thought I'd try before I actually build a fence. Maybe I'll come back later. Well, I didn't go away. I'm back. I thought since I'm here and there's that peeper here, since I'm here and I have the camera, I might as well just wire those pallets up, stand them up. I really hope you don't get the idea, people do all the time, that that's the finished product. My pallets are just leaning in place. You know, I'll put a rail on top, I'll put a rail in the middle, I'll level them up. But in any case, you can see that I've abandoned the contour line. You can tell it's a contour line because there's no ripple in it. There's no hydraulic jump at any point. That's a contour line. And that contour line goes out just below that light pole. It goes kind of around the corner, and it goes actually past that three-legged windmill all the way over to the creek on a contour the whole way. But in any case, you can see that I've stood the pallets up, but right there, instead of keeping going along the contour, I abandoned it to define off that feature. And I'm standing in a feature. I've known about this for quite a long time, because the moisture comes out of the ground here differently. As the goats trim it off or graze it off shorter, it'll become more apparent. All right, now since I'm here, and since I'm doing this anyway, I thought, you know, maybe I'll just show you the way I build, or start to show you the way I built pallet fence, keeping in mind that this is not, they're just standing there. What I do is I make a T. This would be a T. I call this a stretcher. I'm using terms from laying brick, and there's a T. So this is supported by the T. The stretcher is supported at both ends. And so it was, you know, and I just came right around. Now, if you got a corner, you don't really have to put the T in. and I'm not sure what I'm going to do up there yet. So, and still there's too much here to show you. But I thought I'd show you that much. Oh, and one other thing I'd tell you, that my apprentice, Matthew, this summer is gonna finish a book called Building with Pallets, where he'll teach all of this stuff, and he'll make it look real good, because he can use SketchUp, and it'll look like an architect did it, none of the messiness. And he'll teach about building with fences, or building fences with pallets, and he'll teach about how you build a hut. That's been there in extreme wind for 2 years, and I just didn't bother to fix the end. But anyway, that's the one that I just put up to make sure I knew what I intended to do. So anyway, coming attractions, we'll maybe make that book of Matthew's. It'll be online. Maybe make it available at about the same time as the conference in Malmo, Sweden. All right, bye for now.